I still think I didn't do anything wrong, not really. I just made a joke. I said our daughter looked more like the neighbor than my husband, and everyone laughed, until the DNA test showed I was right. Now, the same people who liked my jokes were standing there when the legal papers landed in my hands. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I'm still not sure why everyone is acting like I did something evil. I made a joke, that is all. People make jokes about husbands and neighbors all the time. I said our daughter looked more like the guy next door than my husband, and everyone laughed. They called me bold, honest, funny. Nobody complained then. Now I'm standing here with official papers in my hand, and they all look at me like I'm some monster. My husband said he was tired of the jokes and went to handle things properly. I thought he just meant another serious talk, maybe some counseling, something boring like that. Instead, he showed up with a DNA test and a man in a suit who handed me documents in front of our families. Yes, the test said what I already knew deep down, but that is not the point. The point is, he made it public. He embarrassed me, after I was only ever honest about what everyone could see with their own eyes. I still believe I did not really do anything wrong. I was just saying what people were already thinking. He is the one who turned it into war. In the morning, everything looked normal. The light came into the kitchen. Mia sat on her little chair with her cereal, and Evan stood by the counter with his coffee. I liked those slow mornings. They made me feel like my life was stable, like I had done everything right. House, husband, child. Check, check, check. He started talking about money as usual. He said the power bill went up and daycare wanted to raise their fees. He said we needed to cut back. I rolled my eyes. I told him he sounded like an old man at the bank. He frowned and asked where I thought money came from. I laughed and said it came from not being boring. Mia turned her face toward the window. The curls in her hair fell over her eyes. They were dark curls, soft and thick, not like Evan's hair at all. His hair is straight and lighter. I looked at her and then at him, and the joke just slipped out. I told him she must have gotten her hair from Caleb next door. Evan paused halfway to the fridge. He asked what I meant. I said I was just joking, that everyone said Mia looked like Caleb anyway. He went quiet for a second, then asked who everyone was. I told him not to act stupid, that people could see. I laughed to show it was nothing serious. Mia laughed too because she always copies me. Evan did not laugh. He put his mug down and said he did not like that kind of joke. I told him he needed to relax. I said he was being insecure. I said it made him look guilty, like he had something to hide. His face closed up, the way it does when he wants to say more but decides not to. He kissed Mia on the head, told her to be good, and went to work. He ignored me on the way out. I thought he was being dramatic. Later that day, I stood in the front yard with Mia. She was drawing on the sidewalk with chalk, making big circles and lines. I scrolled my phone, half reading messages from Nadia. She said she wanted to hear more neighbor drama at the barbecue tonight. I smiled. My friends liked my jokes. They called me bold. They said I told the truth everyone else was scared to say. Caleb came out of his house with a toolbox. He waved and walked over. He asked if we were coming tonight. I said, of course, that I was bringing the good chips because Evan only ever bought the cheap ones. Caleb laughed. He looked at Mia and said she was getting more grown up every week. I watched him watching her. They had the same eyes. Dark, curious, a little bit stubborn. I said, almost without thinking, that she really did look more like him than Evan. He shifted his weight and asked if I should say that. I said it was a joke. I said Evan needed jokes, or he would turn into a robot. Caleb said he did not want to be part of a fight between us. I told him there was no fight, that Evan just had a problem with confident women. I said some men wanted a quiet wife, but I was not built for that. When Evan's truck turned into the street, Caleb walked back to his driveway. Evan parked and stepped out. He looked from me to Caleb, then to Mia with her chalk. He asked how our day was. I told him it was fine, and that Caleb and I were just talking about how much Mia looked like him. I did not say which him. I did not have to. Evan's jaw tightened. He told me we should get going if we wanted to be on time for the barbecue. He did not look at Caleb. At the barbecue, the whole neighborhood showed up. The grill smoked. Kids screamed and ran around. Music played from someone's speaker. I liked these gatherings. They were my stage. Nadia came with her boyfriend and brought drinks. She hugged me and asked if Evan had chilled out since the last time. I told her he was still touchy and controlling. I told her about the morning joke, how he got all stiff when I said Mia got her hair from Caleb. She laughed and said some men could not handle the truth. Evan stayed close to the grill, talking to one of the other dads about tools and wiring. I hated that he made himself so small in public. He never joined the loud part of the group, never jumped into the jokes. I thought he made me look boring by connection. I decided he had to loosen up for his own good. Maybe a little push in front of everyone would help. Mia ran past us, chasing another child. Someone said she ran just like Caleb. Another neighbor said she had the same smile. The group looked at me. It was like they were waiting for me to say something. So I did. I raised my cup and said maybe I had mixed up houses 9 months before. People burst out laughing. Someone whistled. Nadia almost choked on her drink. She told me I was wild. Gareth, my brother, who had just arrived, slapped the table and asked if Evan could even handle that joke. Evan turned around slowly. He asked what I had said. I repeated it, a little louder, because why should I hide? I said everybody thought Mia looked like Caleb, so maybe Evan should book a test if he wanted to be sure. The group laughed again, but softer this time, watching his face. He said it was not funny. He said I should stop. I rolled my eyes and said he was embarrassing me. I told everyone he had been sulking all week because people noticed Mia's features. I said he thought any man near his wife was a threat. I framed him as paranoid. A couple of the guys told him to relax. One neighbor said he should be proud to have a pretty kid, no matter who she looked like. Evan's face went pale instead of red. That scared me a little, if I am honest. I expected anger. Instead, he just stood there. He said we could talk later, in private. I said no, we could talk right then. I told him to tell everyone exactly what his problem was. He looked at Mia, then at me, then turned back to the grill. He said nothing. Nadia pulled me aside and told me I was killing it, that my husband needed to get over himself. She said if he could not take a joke, maybe he was hiding something. I felt strong with her next to me, like a crowd was behind me. I told myself I was fighting for my freedom, my voice. I also knew, deep down, that I was kicking a bruise that was already there. When the night ended, Evan said he was tired and wanted to go home. In the car, he drove in silence. Mia slept in her seat. I tried to start an argument, but he did not bite. At home, he put Mia in bed and came back to the kitchen. He asked why I kept saying those things. I told him it was only talk, that he was crazy to act like it meant more. He said it did mean more. He said jokes came from somewhere. I told him if he wanted a quiet, scared wife, he had married the wrong woman. I told him respect followed results, and I had results. I had friends, I had attention, I had people who thought I was funny. He just looked at me like he did not know me at all. He went to bed without another word. I stayed in the kitchen, angry, scrolling my phone, smiling at the comments on the pictures I had posted. When I went to put my phone on the charger near the fridge, his phone screen lit up on the counter. A new calendar reminder showed for the next week. Downtown 10:15 a.m. Personal. I told myself the reminder on his phone was nothing. People had personal things. He was probably getting his hair cut or buying some tool I would call useless. Still, the words bothered me. Downtown. He almost never went downtown. Everything he liked was close to home. Work, hardware store, big supermarket with cheap meat. Downtown felt different. It felt like secrets. The next day at the clinic, I decided to turn it into a joke too. That was how I handled anything that made me uneasy. I sat at the reception desk, smiling at patients, answering calls, and chatting with Nadia between appointments. She leaned on the counter and asked how the barbecue ended. I told her it was fine, just the usual, and then I added the new part. I said Evan had put some mysterious personal meeting in his phone, like he was in a spy movie. I said maybe he was finally seeing a therapist because he could not handle normal jokes. Nadia laughed. She asked what I had said to make him need therapy. I told her about raising my cup and telling everyone I might have mixed up houses 9 months before. She covered her mouth and laughed, then called me brave. I liked that word, brave. It made me feel like I was doing something noble, not mean. I told her he had looked white as a sheet. She said that was his guilt showing. I did not explain what guilt he could have. It just sounded good. It made me the victim and him the suspicious one. Later, in the break room, Nadia asked if Caleb knew about all this. I said of course he did, that he had been right there. I told her he tried to act like it made him uncomfortable, but that was just him being careful. She said I was living in a drama series, and she loved it. She said men needed to be reminded that women had options. I agreed. I said Evan needed to remember that too. I took out my phone and showed her a photo from the barbecue. Mia was in the front, drawing on the ground with chalk. Caleb stood in the background, smiling at something one of the kids was doing. It was a good picture. You could see the similarity if you knew what to look for. I said people online had already commented that Mia had the neighbor smile. Nadia told me to post a story and tag it with some funny text about DNA. I hesitated for a second, then decided why not. I wrote something like, when your kid looks like the neighbor, but your husband can't take a joke, and added a laughing emoji. Nadia reposted it right away. I felt strong again. When my shift ended, I checked my phone. There were laughing reactions, comments like, girl, you're savage, and he better be secure in himself. No one called me cruel. No one said I had gone too far. That meant I was fine, right? That evening, we all went to a family restaurant. It was supposed to be a nice, calm dinner. Rosa had planned it a week before, as a treat for Mia. Long table, crayons, children's menu, the kind of place where everyone talks over each other. Rosa sat at one end, Mia next to her, then Evan, then me. On the other side sat Gareth and my mother. Rosa asked Mia about daycare. Mia talked about her little friend in the drawing corner. My mother asked Evan about work. He answered politely, but there was a stiffness in his shoulders. I could feel he did not want to be here, but he had come anyway. That annoyed me. If he was going to be upset, he should have stayed home. He tried to talk about something serious. He mentioned bills again, said we might need to watch our spending. He suggested we skip buying new furniture this year. I rolled my eyes and said we were just having dinner, not a budget meeting. Gareth chuckled and told Evan to let the woman eat. Then Rosa said Mia was growing so fast. She said she saw a little of Evan's father in her. I felt a twist inside me. I smiled too wide and said other people saw someone else in her. My mother asked who. That was my opening. I said everyone kept saying she looked like Caleb. I said it was funny that some neighbors at the barbecue had asked if we were sure Evan was the dad. I said it in a light tone, like it was a silly story. I watched the words land. Evan put his fork down. He asked why I had to say that here. I told him I was just repeating what people said, and if he had a problem, he should be mad at them, not at me. Gareth laughed and said Evan needed to grow thicker skin. My mother nodded and said men today were too sensitive. Rosa did not laugh. She looked at me, then at Evan, and asked softly if this was true, that people said things like that. I shrugged and said it was just banter. I added that Evan had been acting like I had cheated or something, just because I joked. Evan said quietly that he never said I cheated, just that he did not like the jokes. I raised my voice a little, just enough so the table heard, and said that yes, he did. He made me feel like I had done something wrong. The table turned toward him. My mother asked why he was accusing me. Gareth asked why he could not just be happy with his family. I watched his shoulders sink under all those eyes. He said he loved Mia, that he did not want her used as a punchline. I said he was trying to control my personality. I said he wanted me quiet. I could feel the anger and shame in him, but I kept going. It felt like a win. On the way home, he drove in silence again. At home, he carried Mia to bed. I stayed in the living room scrolling my phone. There were new comments on my story. Someone asked if Evan had seen it. I replied with a laughing emoji and wrote that he had no sense of humor. People like that. When he came back into the room, he looked tired. He said we needed to talk. I said we had already talked enough. He said he felt humiliated by my jokes and my online posts. I pretended not to know what he meant. I asked which posts. He described them exactly. I realized he had seen everything and had maybe even saved them. The idea made me angry, not guilty. I told him he was spying on me. I told him everyone joked about their partners, that he was not special. He said this was different, that I was telling people our daughter might not be his. I said I never said that I only said she looked like someone else. He said the meaning was clear. I said the meaning was in his head. His mouth pressed into a thin line. He said he could not go on like this. He said something had to change. I crossed my arms and told him if he wanted to leave, he should go. I did not think he would. He did not leave. He just said he would take care of it in another way. After he went down the hall, I got up to put something in the kitchen drawer. When I opened it, I saw a pile of neatly stacked papers. Bank statements, printed emails, notes with dates. There was a folder with Household Utilities, Bank, written on it, and behind it, another folder with a label I could not see. As I reached for it, I heard his steps. He came in, closed the drawer, and turned the small key in the lock. He said those were just things he needed to organize. I asked why he needed to lock them. He said he liked things secure. I called him dramatic. I told myself it was about bills. It was easier than thinking it might be about me. Later, as I sat on the couch, I heard the faint sound of the printer from the guest room. A soft hum, a click, paper sliding out. When I walked past the door, it was almost closed, but I could see the glow of the screen on his laptop. The next morning, when I went to the kitchen, his phone lit up again. This time, the calendar showed a new line under the downtown reminder, Meeting, Personal. The morning after the Meeting, Personal reminder showed up, Evan left the house early. He moved quietly, like he did not want to wake anyone. I heard the front door close while it was still dim outside. For a moment, I felt a small twist of guilt. Then I told myself he was the one sneaking around, not me. Mia woke up an hour later. She wanted to go to the park. It was my day off, so I said yes. At the playground, she ran straight to the swings. The air was cool, the sky wide and bright. I sat on a bench, scrolling my phone, checking if there were any new reactions to my posts. There were still comments from last night. People had added more laughing faces. One woman wrote that if a man got upset over jokes, he probably had secrets. I liked that comment. Then I saw Caleb walking up the path. He held a coffee cup and looked surprised when he saw us, but not unhappy. He greeted Mia, then sat at the other end of my bench. He asked how things were. I told him Evan was still being dramatic. I told him about the family dinner, about how Evan had complained again. Caleb sighed and said he did not want trouble. I told him the trouble was in Evan's head. I could feel myself leaning toward Caleb, just a little. It felt safe and exciting at the same time. He said maybe I should stop making the jokes if they hurt Evan. I asked whose side he was on. He said he was on Mia's side. I said Mia was fine. She was playing. She was loved. He said children feel tension, even when adults think they don't. That annoyed me. I hated when people talked like they knew more about my child than I did. I changed the subject. I pointed out how Mia laughed, how her eyes squeezed shut in the same way his did when he smiled. I said it like a joke, but my voice was soft. He looked away. He said I should not say that out loud where people could hear. I reminded him that people already talked. I said it was better if I controlled the story. I said if I made it a joke, then nobody could use it against us. He stared at me and asked what us meant. My heart jumped. I laughed and said he was reading too much into it. I said, men always thought everything was about them. Inside, I felt that familiar rush, the mix of fear and power. He finished his coffee quickly and said he had to go. When he walked away, I watched Mia. She waved at him and called his name. It sounded too natural. Later that afternoon, when Evan came home from work, he barely spoke. He kissed Mia on the head, said hello to me, and went straight to the guest room. I pretended not to see that he carried a folder under his arm. The guest room used to be our storage space. Now it felt like his little office, his cave. The door stayed half closed most of the time. That evening, I saw light under the guest room door and went closer. Through the small crack, I saw his laptop screen. There was a spreadsheet open. I could not see all the words, but I saw dates in one column, and next to them, short notes. I could make out words like barbecue, restaurant, clinic story, and some names: Nadia, Gareth, neighbor. It took me a second to understand. He was tracking me. I felt a flash of hot anger. I pushed the door open more than I meant to. He looked up at me. I asked what he was doing. He said he was organizing things. I asked what kind of things needed my friends' names and the word barbecue. He did not answer right away. He said he was just trying to remember events clearly. He said the details mattered. I told him normal husbands did not make lists of their wives' jokes. He said normal wives did not tell the whole street their child might belong to another man. I said I never said that. I said he was twisting my words. I said he was making me look crazy. He shook his head and said he did not need to make me look like anything. I did not like how that sounded. I left before I could say something I could not take back. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall and breathed. Mia's small voice came from her room, singing to herself. I told myself I was doing all of this for her future, for a life where I was not trapped under Evan's careful rules. It sounded right in my head. It always did. The next day at the clinic, Nadia asked why I looked tense. I told her Evan was making notes about me like I was a project. She said that was creepy. She said I should be careful. Then she laughed and said if he wanted receipts, I should give him a show. I decided she was right. At lunch, we sat in the break room. I pulled out my phone and found a new photo of Mia and Caleb from the park. He was in the background again, blurry, but you could see his outline. I told Nadia people kept saying Mia and Caleb had the same smile. She told me to post it, to keep being real. She said women love that kind of raw honesty. I believed her. She worked in social media part-time and acted like she understood how crowds thought. I posted another story. This time I wrote something like, when the neighbor's smile shows up on your kid, but hubby still wants to argue with jeans. I added a joking tone, some emojis. It looked harmless, cute even. Within an hour, there were new reactions. People told me I was too funny, that my husband was lucky to have someone so honest. Back home, the air between Evan and me felt heavier. He still moved gently around Mia, helped her with puzzles, read her a bedtime story. He always did that. He was a good father, and I knew it. Maybe that is what made everything more complicated. It is easier to justify cheating on a man if you can say he is a bad dad. With Evan, I could not say that, so instead, I made him the bad husband. After Mia fell asleep, I walked past the guest room again. The door was closed this time. I wanted to know what he was hiding. The next afternoon, when he went out to get something from the store and Mia was watching a cartoon, I took my chance. I opened the guest room door and went inside. The bed was made neatly. The desk was clean, except for the laptop and a stack of papers. The printer sat on a small table, a faint smell of toner in the air. I opened the desk drawer. At first, I only saw normal things: pens, sticky notes, a small notebook. Then I noticed a slim USB drive taped under a folder labeled Taxes. The date written on the USB sticker was from the month after Mia was born. I held it for a moment. My heart beat faster. What had he started saving back then? I thought of hospital forms, of photos, of messages. I thought of the first time I had looked at Caleb with more than neighbor eyes. I put the USB back and shut the drawer as I heard a car door outside. I did not want to be caught. That night, his phone buzzed on the counter again. A new alarm flashed. Paper drop. I asked him what it meant. He said it was a reminder to bring some forms somewhere. I asked what forms. He said they were just things he needed to file. I laughed and told him he was acting like an accountant in a crime movie. I told myself all this paperwork meant nothing. I told myself he would calm down once he realized I was not going to leave him. I told myself he should be grateful I still lived in this house, with this family, when I could have had so many other lives. That is how I stayed calm. But later, when I lay in bed alone while he stayed in the guest room, the glow of his laptop under the door made my chest feel tight. The light stayed on long after I closed my eyes. The tension broke in a small way first. It was a normal weekday, nothing special. Mia spilled juice on the counter. I wiped it. Evan packed her lunch. We moved around each other like strangers who knew the same dance. No fighting, no laughing, just careful silence. At daycare drop-off, Mia hugged Evan extra tight. She asked if he was coming to pick her up. He said yes, if he could. He always added that last part now, like the future was unsure. On the way back, I scrolled my phone at a red light. There were still likes on my last story, still comments joking about neighbor Jeans. I felt proud and irritated at the same time. Proud because people found me funny. Irritated because Evan had not said a single word about it, even though I knew he had seen it. Later that afternoon, I went to the supermarket. I needed milk and a few things for dinner. The store was half empty. I pushed the cart slowly, thinking about nothing and everything. When I turned into the cereal aisle, I saw Elsie, Caleb's mother. She smiled when she saw me. She called Mia a sweet little thing, then remembered Mia was not with me. She laughed and said she always pictured Mia at my side. We moved along the aisle together. Elsie picked up a box of cereal and said Mia had the same taste as her side of the family. I asked what she meant. She froze for a second, then said she meant Mia and Caleb both liked the same brand. Her eyes flicked to my face, then away. At the checkout, with people lining up behind us, she looked down at my cart and said Mia was growing fast. She said, in a low voice, that sometimes she thought Mia had heart eyes. Then she corrected herself and said, Merton eyes. I laughed too loudly. I told her she was not the only one who noticed. I said half the neighborhood joked that Mia looked like Caleb more than Evan. Elsie's smile faded. She asked if Evan knew people said that. I said he did and that he could not take a joke. I tried to sound playful. She pressed her lips together and said that maybe some jokes cut deeper than they seemed. I brushed it off. On the way out, she said something that stuck in my mind, that the truth had a way of coming out, whether we joked about it or not. At home, my brother Gareth was already there when I arrived. My mother was sitting at the kitchen table with him, drinking tea. They had come early for dinner. I did not mind. I liked an audience. Evan came home a bit later, carrying some files from work and a small paper bag. Mia came back from daycare, full of energy. She ran to Gareth and my mother and showed them her drawing. It was a picture of 3 stick figures and a smaller one. She said it was Mom, Dad, and Mia and Caleb. Everyone laughed awkwardly. Gareth asked why the neighbor was in the family picture. Mia said he was there because he always pushed her on the swing. That should have been a quiet warning. Maybe to another woman it would have been. To me, it was an opening. Evan's jaw tightened. He told Mia it was a nice drawing, then went to put his folder down. I watched him carefully. Later, while I chopped vegetables, he joined me in the kitchen. My mother and Gareth sat at the table with their tea. Mia coloured on the floor. He said he needed to talk to me. I told him he could talk. He looked at my mother, at Gareth, and then at Mia. He said maybe it was better if we talked alone. I said anything he wanted to say could be said in front of my family. I wanted witnesses. I always felt stronger with witnesses. He took a deep breath and said he wanted a paternity test. The knife stopped in my hand. For a moment, I did not even understand the words. Then my heart started to beat faster. I told him to repeat himself. He did, calmly. He said he thought we should get a DNA test for Mia. He said it was the only way to end all the jokes, all the tension, all the doubt. Heat rushed to my face. I turned his words into a weapon. I asked him why he wanted to hurt Mia like that. I asked him why he wanted to put paperwork between a father and his child. I asked him why he was trying to call her fake. My voice shook, but I forced it to sound more hurt than angry. My mother gasped and asked if he really said that. Gareth stared at him. Evan said he loved Mia and that he always would, no matter what, but that the situation was not healthy. He said the jokes had gone too far. I said he was accusing me of cheating. He said he did not say that. I said he did by implication. I turned every calm sentence into an attack in my version of it. My mother told him he was being cruel, that children were not lab samples. Gareth said only a sick person would question his own child that way. I watched their words pile on him. The tight muscles in his face did not relax. He just stood there, taking it. He tried again. He said he wanted clarity. He said if the test proved Mia was his, then nobody could ever joke again. I said nobody would joke again because I would never forgive him for even asking. I said he was breaking our family. I said if he went ahead with it, then he was the one who did not deserve us. I knew what I was doing. I was drawing a line. Choose peace on my terms or be the villain. Rosa came over later that evening. After dinner, when my mother called her, worried. She sat with me while Evan took Mia to the bedroom to read. Rosa asked softly what was happening. I told her he wanted a paternity test, like Mia was something he could send to a lab. Rosa looked pained. She said Evan loved that child more than anything. I said, love did not look like legal tests. When Evan came back into the living room, Rosa asked him calmly if this was true. He said yes, but he tried to explain. He said he felt trapped between rumors and jokes, and that this was the only way forward. She listened but did not answer. I started to cry. I told her I felt attacked, like nobody trusted me. I made myself small and wounded in front of his mother. Rosa did not shout, but she did not take my side. She said she did not like the jokes about Mia, that they had gone on too long. She said she was tired of hearing people talk around the subject and not facing it. That stung. I had expected her to fully blame him. After she left, Evan and I stood in the kitchen again. He said he had already made some calls. He said he was going to handle it properly. I asked what that meant. He said he was done with public scenes, with online stories, with half-truths. He said he would follow the right steps and let the results speak. I told him he was threatening me. He said he was protecting himself and Mia. Later that night, after everyone left and Mia was asleep, I saw his phone on the counter once more. A new entry had appeared under his calendar. The old downtown 10:15 a.m. personal was still there. Just below it was a new line, lab 3:30 p.m. Another reminder popped up for the next week. Meeting, personal, follow-up. I stared at the words. My stomach turned. I told myself it was bluff. I told myself he would not dare. I told myself no test could change what we were. But my hands shook as I turned off the screen. I went to the living room and opened my social media. I wrote another post about men who love paper more than people. My followers laughed. They agreed that some husbands could not handle strong wives. I read every comment like it was proof I was right. In the hallway, Behind the closed guest room door, I heard the quiet sound of a drawer being locked and the soft beep of his phone as another alarm was set. The message about the meeting came 2 days later. Evan said the school wanted parents to come to a family communication session in the community hall. He said it was about routines and stability for kids. I said it sounded boring. He said he thought it was important and that we should both go. He said it would be good if our families came too, because they helped with Mia. That part made me suspicious. I asked him why he needed my mother and Gareth there, and maybe Rosa. He said it was better if everyone heard the same thing at the same time. I told him he was being dramatic again. He said he was trying to avoid more drama. His calm voice irritated me more than shouting would have. On the day of the meeting, I dressed nicely. I wanted to look like the put-together one. I chose a soft blouse, simple jeans, light makeup. I told myself if anyone looked guilty today, it would be him, not me. My mother came to our house first. Gareth picked up Rosa on the way. They all asked what the meeting was really about. I said it was probably some school thing Evan was overhyping because he liked paper and schedules more than people. When we walked into the community hall, I realized this was not a normal school event. There were no posters, no other parents except the ones I knew too well. Nadia sat near the back, looking confused but curious. Elsie was there too, sitting stiffly, her handbag clutched in both hands. Caleb stood beside her, pale. Rosa sat near the front, her jaw set. Evan stood near a table at the front of the room, hands in his pockets. Beside him was a man in a dark suit holding a folder. My stomach dropped. I asked Evan what this was. He said it was what he had promised, a clear and proper way to deal with things. I told him he was scaring me. He said the truth did not have to be scary if we respected it. The man in the suit stayed silent. People sat down slowly. Gareth and my mother took chairs near me. Nadia waved at me like she was at a show she had reserved seats for. I gave her a small smile, like I was in control. Inside, my chest was tight. Evan cleared his throat. He said he wanted to thank everyone for coming. He said he knew this was unusual, but the situation had become unusual. He said he had listened for months while jokes were made about Mia's father, in this room, in other rooms, online. He said he had tried to talk privately, but the jokes had stayed public. He said he had decided to use public truth instead of public rumor. I stood up. I told him he was turning our life into a court case. I said this was cruel. I said he was trying to shame me. He said he was not trying to shame anyone, only to settle what had been thrown in his face over and over. He said we had all heard the lines about neighbor genes. He said he did not make those jokes. I did. He nodded to the man in the suit. The man stepped forward and handed me an envelope. It was thick, heavy. My name was on it. My hand started shaking. I asked what it was. Evan said it was the result of the paternity test he had requested through the proper channels. He said, Mia, Caleb, and he had all given samples at the lab. He said the test was done, signed, and recognized. For a second, the world blurred. I told myself it would say what I wanted it to say. I told myself it would prove I was right, that I had nothing to hide. I raised my chin and opened it. Pages slid out. On top was a clear line of text, simple and cold. It said the probability of Evan being Mia's biological father was 0. It said the probability of Caleb being her biological father was greater than 99.9. The words swam in front of my eyes. I heard a gasp from someone behind me. My mother whispered something like a prayer. Gareth said my name in a low voice. Nadia stopped breathing for a moment. I could feel everyone's attention like a hot light on my skin. I looked at Caleb. He stared at the floor. Elsie held her handbag even tighter. She looked like she might break in half. Rosa's eyes were shiny, but her back was straight. She did not look surprised. That hurt in a different way. I said the test could be wrong. I said labs made mistakes. I said maybe they had mixed up samples. Evan said the lab was certified and careful. He said he had followed every instruction. He said the results were checked twice. He said one simple thing, that numbers did not care about jokes. The man in the suit handed me another stack of papers. I did not want to touch them, but my fingers closed anyway. Evan said those were the documents he was filing. He said he was seeking a divorce. He said he was asking the court to recognize the new paternity facts and set clear custody and financial orders for Mia's sake. He said all decisions would now be made with proper records, not with rumors or angry posts. I said he was trying to take my child. He said he was not taking anyone. He was making sure Mia had stability and that everyone who claimed a place in her life had it in writing. He said he was doing what I had refused to do, face what the jokes were actually about. My mother started to cry. She said she did not know. I heard the word no over and over. Gareth looked at me and then away, like the floor was more important. Nadia opened her mouth and then closed it. She had nothing funny to say anymore. Elsie whispered that she had suspected, but hearing it like this still hurt. I turned on Caleb. I said this was his fault. I said he should have drawn a line. I said he had let things go too far. He said quietly that he had given his sample because Evan asked honestly and calmly, and that he could not lie to himself forever. He said Mia deserved adults who did not hide from facts. Evan did not raise his voice once. He did not point or curse. He just stood there, steady. He said from now on, all communication about Mia would go through lawyers and court channels. He said he would no longer respond to stories, jokes, or online drama. He said he wished it had not come to this, but that I had left him no other safe way. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell everyone he was cruel for doing this in public. But then I remembered I was the one who had made it public first. I was the one who had brought neighbors and the internet into our bedroom. I was the one who had taken a secret and turned it into content. The man in the suit finished his work and stepped back. The papers were in my hands now. No emojis, no filters, no laughter. Just words and numbers and signatures saying very clearly who Mia belonged to and what Evan was going to do about it. Evan looked at me one last time. He said everything else from here would be written down, not argued. He said this was him handling it properly. Then he turned away to speak quietly with Rosa and the man in the suit, while I stood in the middle of the room, holding the truth I had joked about until it became real. Outside the community hall, the air felt too sharp. People drifted out in small groups, whispering. I stood on the steps, clutching the envelope and the stack of legal papers, like they might burn my hands if I dropped them. Evan's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, then at the man in the suit. The man nodded and said something about the filing being confirmed and temporary orders already in effect. Evan said that meant from today, decisions about Mia's time, money, and school were under court protection. He said nobody could use her as a joke or a weapon now without it going into the file. I said he was treating me like a danger. He said the documents did that, not him. He said my posts and my jokes and the DNA results were all attached, that every time I tried to spin the story now, it would just become more evidence. Rosa told him she was proud he had stayed calm. Caleb stood beside Elsie, staring at the ground. Nadia would not meet my eyes. The man in the suit asked me to sign a line saying I had been served. My hand shook, but the pen still moved.